feel like Gordon Bombay would have taken his career to even further heights.
Everything's flashy, everything's cocaine, everything's
Fun.
Open wide for some soccer!
I don't care what your personal thoughts are at home. I care that you hate the
Call
Cowboys.
this college rule!
Welcome back, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. Dom and Chris here, and we're recording live down at Engel Studio. Before we begin, always make sure to like, follow, subscribe, share, and watch all our videos so we can keep growing this channel and producing the content that you've been accustomed to. Recording down here at Engel Studio, and Chris, we're starting a block today.
That's right. We're right into a block of Brett Favre backups, and we're not talking sexy style. These are actually his backup quarterbacks.
Not extracurricular picks.
There you go. That's what I was looking for.
That's what we're doing for in the first 10 minutes of an episode.
Yep.
But because he played for so long in Green Bay, like essentially 20 years.
Yep.
He had a lot of backups, and the Packers at this time, we'll probably mention in other episodes, led by Ron Wolf and Mike Holmgren, wanted to develop quarterbacks, and we're interested in finding maybe the next guy in case the old dong slinger got hurt.
Well, it's interesting because they really do draft a bunch of great college quarterbacks, but they just don't get any time under Brett because he just plays every game.
It's like buying health insurance and being healthy all the time.
Yes.
It's such a waste. I mean, you're insured, but you do get compensation, though, unlike in real life. But anyway, the first of which we'll discuss is probably one of the best college quarterbacks who's ever played.
Yes.
So Ty Detmer. We got Ty Detmer today. Ty Hubert Detmer, born October 30th, 1967 in San Marcos, Texas.
Which is a small town. I had to look it up, and I was like, how big is it? It's
Not very.
nothing.
Not very. Dad Sonny and Mom Betty. He was the oldest of four kids. His younger brother was also a quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
In college there over at Colorado there in the 1990s. He was the guy from the Cosby Show's backup in Philadelphia.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that
Coy
one. That's
Detmer.
cool.
Yeah. His dad, Sonny, was a football coach.
Yeah.
He picked his name Ty because this is the most Hank Hill thing I ever read, was at a high school football game, he heard the name Ty over the loudspeaker and said, "That's what my son's name needs to be."
That's pretty wild. I like that.
Sweet Jethro Pugh.
Ty is the name of my first baby boy.
That's 4,000 sheets. But he was a football coach, as I said before, and a former player. He was a wide receiver at Wharton County Junior College and played in the Continental Football League. And one of the way, like many of the athletes we've talked about as coaches' kids, they become very involved in their dad's jobs.
Well, I'll say this because obviously football was his top sport. I don't think I've ever seen somebody be so good in so many different high school sports. They literally listed like everything, and he was like letterman in all these regional in basket. Like literally, obviously, football was his sport.
It was badminton. That was
the one. It was golf, football, baseball, basketball, track. He was a star at all of them.
It's like, what are you trying out for, Ty? I'm doing the Ken Norton Senior route.
Yep.
All of it.
All of it.
His dad would set up film sessions with the other coaches, and he would put the projector up on the wall for Ty and his younger brother Coy to watch. So apparently, because of watching all this film and becoming accustomed to all of it, Ty could read sophisticated defenses when he was like in middle school.
I was going to say, because you can tell with the coach's son, especially in quarterback, where they just like live in that film room since they've been like a kid. And you could see it when he goes to B.Y.U. He's a great quarterback.
Well, so he's Texas High School Player of the Year.
Yep.
He throws for over 8,000 yards and 71 touchdowns in his high school career. And you're thinking, okay, you're in Texas. You're putting up ridiculous numbers. You're a student of the game. You don't do anything. There's no shady background with you. Like, you are an upstanding citizen. You would figure Longhorns, A&M, all of these schools would be at your doorstep. But Ty, unfortunately, not a big dude. He's probably shorter than me, so he's about 5'10", 180, 190 pounds.
And
he does not have a very strong arm.
Yes.
He has an accurate arm, and he's smart, and he knows ball placement. Anything you'd want to know, but coaches kind of shy away from that because they're looking for that, prototypical guy.
That Manning kind of figure.
That old dong slinger.
I was just going to say. But this follows him throughout his entire career, where people kind of underestimate him because they're like, all right, little guy. Come on.
Easy there, champ.
But you're right. He does every single thing that you want. You're right with the power was kind of light. But, like, his vision on the field, being able to, like, read defenses, which I think is so important in the college game, and then more important in NFL because defenses are so much better.
And you know what? And we'll get into it later and my feelings about where he went. I never disliked him because he's just such a nice guy.
Yeah, I've seen
it's
that.
like the Kenny Lofton where you could be on our team.
Yes, seriously, though.
He said he chose BYU for two reasons. Number one was obviously they were one of the innovators as far as really dialing it up the passing game.
Yep.
In the college game, he's like, I want to play in that offense. I can throw it 50 times and can just absolutely vivisect defenses.
Show my skill.
He was also intrigued, even though he wasn't part of the Mormon Church, by their honor code. Because there's no drinking, there's no sexy time, and there's no tobacco.
I know.
But I had read in that SI Vault article, he said it was tough on him because of the no caffeine, because he liked drinking tea.
Oh, man.
I think your priorities are wrong. When you're like, tea, I don't know, but Malone's own age, go for it.
Well, it's ridiculous because I remember looking it up and I was like, I didn't know he was Mormon. And then you're like, oh, no, he wasn't.
Not at the time, no.
No, not at the time.
No.
And it's such an interesting thing that he literally chose this college because he was like, I want all my teammates to be essentially sober and like dialed in, because I imagine he came from that small Texas kind of area where they're just like, look, we're going to start drinking at 3. I know the game is at 5, but we got to get drunk.
I can't get Miss Davis's fat ass out of my face. I give it a 10.
I give it a 10.
But he had basically said how he was like, I don't enjoy being the designated driver.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just fun, but God, can't I have tea, coach?
Yeah, I know. It's so ridiculous.
But I mean, you don't need to be, of that faith to play. I mean, you think Jim McMahon, the punky QB, was doing that? I don't think he was wearing those special underwear.
Nope.
So he redshirts in 87.
Yep.
In 88, he's sharing duties with Sean Covey. And that season, he has 13 touchdowns. His only start, though, he had 5 tutties and over 300 yards against New Mexico. And in the 88 Freedom Bowl, he comes off the bench in the second half to help beat Colorado, and he's MVP of the game.
And they were trailing that game.
Yeah.
And he literally, and this is something that when you're like a college football team and you're like a fan, and you're like, oh man, they're putting in our freshman quarterback, and then he dominates, essentially, because he played half the game and won MVP.
Yeah.
So like you're literally like, oh man, this future is actually kind of bright.
And then you're like, he's coming back for how many more years?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So in 89, absolutely fantastic. Like he's starting to rewrite record books, and he's the next BYU quarterback after like a Mark Wilson, then a Steve Young, and then a punky QB in there.
Punky Brewster.
Punky Brewster. And what was it? Robbie Bosco was the one that won the national championship for him in 84. Bosco.
It went into my head right there.
Come on, give me the code.
Bosco.
Peterman's mom. God. So he has 4,560 passing yards and 32 passing touchdowns.
They win the WAC champ.
They win the WAC champ. His 175.6 passer rating led all of Division 1A.
Yep.
Second to Heisman Trophy winner Andre Ware in total offense. And while they did win the WAC, I did want to point out, they only had one loss, and it was the last WAC game of the season.
Yep.
Went to Hawaii, where they had never
lost
before, and they lost 56-14, which was very nice.
This is before BYU was going to Hawaii and getting all of their players.
Oh, Chris, this was like Roadhouse at the end. Spoiler alert, when all the citizens rise up and kill Brad Wesley.
I don't think you have to say spoiler alert for an 80s movie that we all love.
Oh my God, this was their polar bear coming down on Ty Detmer. Oh God, I hate that BYU. But anyway, they finished 10-3. And yeah.
They go to the Holiday Bowl.
They go to the Holiday Bowl, and they play Penn State. Because at the time, you'd think like, oh, they go to the Holiday Bowl. Like that was where the WAC champ always went. So it's not like that's just where you go.
And this is back when bowls had legitimate names. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Before it was like the whatever.
Beef O'Brady Bowl.
Oh, man, the Chef Boyardee Bowl.
The Maxi Tampon Bowl.
Actually, that one's my favorite. But
well, of course,
it's just because, they stop the periods.
They stop after every period.
But in this Holiday Bowl and this season, he kind of has this like thing where he's like, no, I'm an elite quarterback. And you see it in the Holiday Bowl. He has 576 passing yards, 594 total. MVP, they win, all of that stuff.
No, they lost to Penn State.
Oh, they lost. They lost. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was the Blair Thomas game.
Yep,
where
you're right.
So things are looking up. He finished 9th in the Heisman that year.
Yep.
So 1990. This was the season, and we've actually talked about him in a previous episode regarding this season. So week 2, Miami, in their total U form, they go up to Provo for a game in
Miami,
week 2.
That offensive line just hitting the slopes.
That's hitting the slope.
You got it.
You know what I mean? Detmer plays an incredible game on national television and really kind of arrives as like a national college football stud.
Yes.
He has 406 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, and they upset Miami.
Who was, I think they were
defending national champions.
Yes, I was going to say, I think they were ranked 2 at that time or 1. So it was like literally this upset that nobody saw coming, and he was like the star in this game.
It was like getting robbed by a sweet old lady on a motorized cart. You just didn't see it coming.
What did you sell? I don't know, Petey?
Sold my dead bird to a blind kid?
Yeah.
He didn't even have a head.
Harry, I took care of it.
So they're cruising all year. Their only loss this year was to Oregon. He set 42 NCAA records this year, tied 5 more, 5,188 passing yards, 41 touchdown passes, and they're 10-1. He wins the Maxwell Award, the Davey O'Brien Award, and he's up for the Heisman. He's a Heisman finalist, Chris.
That's right.
And what ends up happening?
He wins, right?
He wins. He beats the Rocket.
I was just going to say.
It was a very close race. I'm sure those voters really had to be like, oh, do we pick the Mormon or the guy with the September 11th sounding name? I don't know. I don't know.
Very accurate. But him as a quarterback this season, I think it really like shows what a great college quarterback he was. Obviously, Heisman winner. But like, we'll get into what happens later on.
Oh, yeah. So December 1st, 1990, he wins the Heisman.
Yep.
Normally, when you win the Heisman Trophy, you don't have any more games to play. The very same day he wins the Heisman, they're at Aloha Stadium again. They're ranked number 4. So if they win this game, they could possibly compete for the national championship.
Yep.
You just win the Heisman, and then they got... Chris, UH football has been really crappy over the last 10 years. I think I've watched this game at least 5 times within that span, just to be like, oh God, let me relive something nice.
Well, it's interesting to think that B.Y.U. lost back-to-back years to Hawaii when they were so strong of a team then.
But you know what's beautiful? It's not just that they lost, it's they got their lunch handed to them.
They really did.
So like, you know how that first movie was like Roadhouse, or that first game was like Roadhouse? This second game was like a complete shot-for-shot remake, only the camera's focused on Swayze's junk.
Oh,
nice. I mean, that's what and the real Roadhouse, not this fake one with Streisand, Gyllenhaal, and they're after me Lucky Charms, fucking McGregor.
It's crazy.
The real one. But anyway, they end up losing 59-28, but they still make the Holiday Bowl.
Yeah, because they won the WAC again, and they always go to the Holiday Bowl. But you're right. If they had beaten Hawaii, they could have been in contention to play the national championship game. Because
in 90, that was the Colorado year where they upset Notre Dame.
Yep.
That was Miami beating. Like it could have broke their way depending on who they played and who they beat.
Exactly.
So they end up going to the Holiday Bowl and getting absolutely ass blasted.
Like Texas A&M beat them so bad that I feel like a lot of people in college football were like, see, BYU sucks. Like, you know what I mean?
It's like they got lucky for that Little Giants that one time.
Oh,
they
man.
beat the Canes
You
that
think
one time.
Think I don't know about Little Giants?
But
65-14. It was so bad. He ended up getting injured.
he separated both his shoulders.
I was going to
apparently.
say, everything that could have gone bad in this game went bad.
So, but he's still got another season of eligibility left.
But he had off-season surgery, and now with these shoulder injuries, his size, I feel like this is when his draft stock really starts to plummet, because right before these two games, people were looking at him like, oh, this guy's going to really do well in the NFL.
That's a first-round pick. You can put him in a West Coast offense, and then devastation. 91 starts horribly for them.
Yes, they're horrible. They lose the first 3 games.
Yeah. Granted, they're all against ranked opponents, but that's what happens.
Yes.
But they reel off 8 straight. He has another fantastic year, over 4,000 yards passing and 35 touchdowns. And going into the last regular season game, I did want to add, I was at it.
Oh, cool.
So November 16th, 1991, I'll never forget, they're playing San Diego State. They're not only playing San Diego State, they're playing for the WAC championship.
Yep.
BYU can win the WAC as long as they win this game or tie it. This is one of my really first football memories. Like, my dad took me. It was it was the highest attended Aztec game at the Murph up to that point.
Up to that point, yeah.
And in this game, San Diego State, Marshall Faulk this is a freshman. He's amazing. They're up 45-17 in the second half. Mm-hmm. David Lowry couldn't miss. Darnay Scott was leaving everybody's jockstrap on the field. It was like a party. It was so awesome.
I bet. And was this the first San Diego State game you ever been to?
No, I've been going the year or two before.
Okay, so that was my thing. It was like, the stadium is packed.
Yeah.
You guys are killing this team for the WAC championship.
Killing your biggest rival.
There you go.
Your biggest goddamn rival.
There's nothing like killing a Mormon. All right.
I was saying more the football team.
Oh, my bad.
But anyway, Detmer just starts paper cutting them. And then there's like a Faulk fumble. San Diego State is not taking any time off the clock.
Yes.
And they're just being paper cut to death. And then the big plays kind of start building off of that. BYU ends up scoring to tie it at 52. Time almost expires. Which, in my opinion, shove it up your ass, Lavelle Edwards. You go for the win. There's no overtime, you dickbag.
It's very true.
You don't go for the tie.
And that's what they did.
What are they? The Hawks and the Mighty Ducks. All right, guys, let's come together. Tie. God.
Shout out to our producer. Tie.
So end of time, they win the WAC, and they go to the Holiday Bowl for the 4th straight year.
They win the WAC on a tie.
Yeah.
Which is so
garbage.
I was going to say,
garbage.
Being at that game, especially the feeling going into halftime, beginning second half, you're just like, this is it. We're a party.
It was so it, Chris.
And then for half the game to end on a tie, you're just like, this sucks.
It's worse than kissing your sis. God dang it. Anyway, they go to the Holiday Bowl again, and what do? They tie.
Yep.
They tie number 7, Iowa. I didn't realize how highly Iowa was ranked that year. I'm trying to remember, Michigan must have made the Rose Bowl then.
Oh, yeah.
Because usually it'd be like the second or third Big Ten team would go.
Well, it's just a weird end to his career, college career.
Yeah.
Tie. Yeah, it's just, it's so weird.
Triple ties.
Especially for a bowl game to not have overtime, or at least say that we're going to finish on a tie, because you're like, this is it, guys. People
aren't coming back next year.
Yes.
But anyway, when he finishing his college career, though, I did want to bring up these stats because some of them are unbelievable as far as all-time records at the time. 15,031 passing yards, 121 passing touchdowns, 135 total touchdowns, 162.7 passer rating, and 59 NCAA records. That's what I can't even believe.
I know.
When he left, the most prolific college quarterback ever. Not even close. In the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because he played all 4 years too, essentially.
And he played in such a pass-heavy offense that you're like, oh, yeah, those are a lot of records.
And rightfully selected to the College Football Hall of Fame, where he should be, back in 2012. But now, heading into the 92 draft, because you're going to want him on your team at some point. Scouts were not a buzz for this guy.
No, they literally were like, yeah, we get he did well in college, but like he's not an NFL player. He had these injuries. He's 4'7".
Yeah, right.
You're just like, yeah, but I mean, his accuracy, and he showed it for so many years that I felt like.
And he's a nice guy. He's like the Grant Hill
Nice
of
guy.
BYU.
Thank you. But I felt like where he got drafted was such a slap in the face.
Yeah, it was pretty crappy. It was pretty crappy. So 92 NFL draft. There are 12 rounds in this draft. The quarterbacks that kind of going off the board. You had David Klingler and Tommy Maddox in the first round. Matt Werewolves of Blunden later. Then we got a guy we talked about in an episode, Jeff Blake. This is Jeff Blake draft.
Nice.
And goes in the 6th round of the Jets. And then in round 9, Brad Johnson goes. He had played more basketball than football at Florida State.
I was just going to say, and it's crazy because to say that Brad Johnson went at the same round that Ty Detmer did off of this ridiculous college career, but just nobody wanted him.
Well, here's the thing. Brad Johnson had all of the traits.
I know.
Physical traits
Yes.
Ty Detmer didn't have.
Yep.
So, someone's going to be like, I'll take a chance on that guy.
Exactly.
I mean, great. He was a very good quarterback.
Yes,
for a long
but
time.
it's just such an interesting stereotype almost that they have where they're just like, you're just 2 inches too small, bud.
Oh, God. But at pick 230 in the 9th round, Detmer's finally selected by the Green Bay Packers.
And that's what leads us into this block.
Yeah, which this was actually a perfect place for him to go as far as just not only making the team, but fitting like a glove in the offensive system that was being installed.
And like you said, they were trying to develop quarterbacks. He shouldn't have just been pushed into an offense, and he could literally learn what the NFL is all about.
Yeah. So he goes to Green Bay in 92. Don Majkowski's there, and they had just traded for Brett Favre. Majkowski gets hurt in the 2nd week of the season. Favre takes over, and then Detmer is pretty much the backup for the rest of his tenure there, even as they're acquiring a guy we'll do an episode on next.
Yes, because he really is the second string for the 4 years that he was there.
He threw only 21 passes in Green Bay because Favre never gets injured.
I was going to say he played 7 games, but to say he played 7 games is almost like a ridiculous statement because he would come in for 4 minutes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's a blowout, or
yes.
you're getting blown out, and
Yep.
you're like, just run the offense.
Yes,
Run the
exactly.
offense. Did throw a touchdown and have 107 yards passing, but basically, what I guess his dad was telling, and Ty's mindset was like, I'm just gonna wait and develop. I'm gonna try and make Brett Favre smarter.
Yeah.
Try and bestow my coach's kid knowledge on everybody, because it is a perfect system for somebody with his
His knowledge,
football
yes.
acumen, and he is quick release. You don't need the strongest arm necessarily to play in this offense, and you got to make a lot of quick decisions.
Yes.
So after the 95 season, in March of 96, free agency.
Yep.
And he said he only had 2 teams he wanted to go to, both of which ran the same offense as Mike Holmgren and Green Bay.
Yep.
Kansas City and Philadelphia. Ray Rhodes, who was an assistant in Green Bay, is the head coach. And the offensive coordinator there, I don't know if you saw who it was.
Mr. Gruden.
Somebody is just setting up that Hotmail account, Chris.
You know what?
Ready to fire them off.
If we can't be assholes in email, then I don't know what this country's coming to. I'm just kidding.
I wonder how many he sent to Ty, and Ty just shook his head like, really, Groots?
Oh, I bet.
Really? I'm not going to click on that link. I'm not going to do it.
You know what a nice man I am.
He's like, come on, you pussy. But no, so he signs. So there was Rhodes said he was crafty, and then a lot of the linebackers who he was with in Green Bay said how smart he was.
Yes.
How he would just carve them up during, scout team.
Yes.
Like he would basically just play with them and be like, I'm smarter than all of you. You all are not making the team next year.
Serious.
So he signs for 2 years, $1.7 million with Philadelphia.
With the old Eagles.
And Eagles are coming off a playoff berth in 95, a little bit of a rebuild. And he's back up to Rodney Peete, who's a Tucson native, oddly enough. And then on Monday Night Football, September 30th, 1996, Pete injures his right patellar tendon and tears it. And they're going into the bye week, and Ty Detmer's the new quarterback in Philadelphia, starting quarterback.
And he does this is where, like, for me, I was just like, he does really well. Like, there's no, like, when you would think about the way they were talking about him, like, in the draft, you'd be like, oh, this is just going to destroy our season. And you're just like, no. He's smart enough to, like, understand what passes should be thrown, all of that shit.
Oh, yeah, no, and you have guys like Ricky Waters there.
Yep.
You know, like, that's a huge help. But just, he's in the right system for him. The coaching staff has faith in him, and the team around him is pretty good.
Yep.
So he reels off 4 wins in a row to start off, including a 31-20 win at Texas Stadium. They go 7-4 down the stretch and win the wild card. They win the wild card that year.
Make it to the playoffs. He threw 2,911 yards and 15 TDs coming in. So, like, just that off of your quarterback, your backup quarterback, essentially, is pretty goddamn good.
In this era, too.
Yes.
In this era. He goes to his only postseason start, and they're shut out in San Francisco.
Yep.
On December 29th, 1996. It was a rainy, I don't know if you ever remember that game. It was just rainy and
just shitty.
Just crappy. In 97, he starts the season at quarterback, and things don't go well for the Eagles.
No,
not at all.
They're just not. This just isn't, I feel like, a great team. You know what I mean?
It's a 3-man carousel with Rodney Peete and Bobby Hoying. Ty only goes 2-5 in his 7 starts. And 98, by the end of the season, they're just like, well, your 2 years are up. We're going to go with Hoying.
Yeah, we're going to go with somebody else.
So crappy. They were like, we're firing Ray Rhodes, hiring Andy Reid, and drafting the guy from The Cosby Show like we did a couple episodes ago.
Thank God.
So this is what leads to it.
Yeah, that's what leads to that.
Yeah.
So he goes to the 49ers to back up old Steve Oldman.
Steve Oldman. Well, here's the thing. Where he starts going now as a backup, you can chart all of the coaches and assistants he's somehow run across before since he got to Green Bay.
Yep.
So Mariucci's the head coach in San Francisco, and I think the offensive coordinator is Greg Knapp. So
it's coaches that literally have had them under them, and they're like, no, this guy is going to be the best backup we can probably get.
This guy's perfect for our quarterback room.
Exactly.
Like, he'll hold the clipboard. He'll go in if you need him to, but, like, he's not going to do anything wrong.
And he's that kind of backup quarterback where he's almost player coach.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Where, like,
easy.
That's literally what you want.
So he does start one game that year against Carolina. Has 3 touchdowns, which is great. Has another touchdown pass in a loss to the Patriots later that season, off a blocked field goal, which I think is pretty cool. Botched field goal, not blocked. You can't throw it after that. And they go to the playoffs and they win the wild card. That was the TO game.
Yep.
And he even has a 2-point conversion off another botched snap the next week in the Garrison Hurst game against the Falcons that they lose the NFC divisional round. But Ty wants a chance to play, again, consistently. And there's a new team entering the league this following year.
Well, a new old team.
Well, a new old crappy team. She tried her best, Dale. Yeah, which was crappy.
So he gets traded to the Browns.
Yep.
And he really is Tim Couch's backup.
Yeah.
But I feel like in his mind, he was like, oh, no. I'm going to go there and start. Tim Couch is just going to, like, bench for a year. But it kind of wasn't like that.
Well, no. The original plan was, we probably touched on it in the Couch episode we did. They gave him like $17 million to come in and be the starter. They didn't want... It's an expansion team. It's
yes.
like we talked in the McNair one. We want Chris Chandler taking the beatings, not you.
But I was going to say, he was the starter coming in, and then something happens.
Well, something happens week 1 on Sunday Night Football. The best welcome back to the NFL ever, in my opinion. They host the Steelers at home and get
annihilated.
I love 43-0. Oh God. Oh, that just.
Yeah.
That was just enjoyable to watch beginning to end. But the Browns, being the Browns, say, no, Ty. No. You stay out there. They put Couch in. And this is the beginning of the end for Tim Couch.
Yes.
Essentially, because they really can't commit to Detmer now. The guy's been cast.
Yes.
He starts in week 15 because Couch is out with a foot injury because he's always hurt You can listen to that episode.
I was gonna
and just
say,
be
yeah.
like, that is sad. It's just sadness. 548 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. But in 2000, you're thinking, okay, well, maybe we can reverse this. Maybe we start him in front of Couch while he just heals and isn't murdered.
And they can actually get like better players around him, kind of like that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Where I feel like that first game of the season where they got blown out against the Steelers, people were like, "Cool, we don't really have a full team."
No, it was like watching a CFL team.
Yes, exactly.
That's not fair. A lower tier CFL team. When we were doing Ty Detmer, I had to rewatch this one just for enjoyment. But in 2000, he doesn't play.
So he injures his right Achilles, but he injures it so bad that he's out for the entire season.
And he drinks tea. He's not doing ayahuasca like Aaron Rodgers. So like that's a huge disadvantage.
Huge disadvantage. That's very true.
And then heading into 2001, you're thinking, all right, well, we've all seen Spurgeon the surgeon win. Maybe he'll come back to Cleveland and back up Couch here in 2001. But no, he's traded September 2nd
To the playoff dominant Lions.
That's really just swapping bad for bad, right?
Oh my God! As a football player who's grown up in football, you go from the Browns, who just came back, to the fucking Lions, where you're just like, well, boys, this is gonna be bad.
You're just like, couldn't you trade me to somewhere where they're still crappy and have nice weather? Oh God. So he's traded to Detroit for a 4th round pick, which is, I don't even know. I mean, I don't even know what was going through Detroit's mind at that point. But I think I do, because the head coach of the Lions, Marty Morningweg, was an assistant in Green Bay when Detmer played in Green Bay.
Yep.
So he's thinking, all right, I need a backup for Mike McMahon and Charlie Batch. And, well, he got one of their 2 wins this year.
But his first start was so bad.
Oh, let's discuss that one. Oh man, it was September 23rd, 2001, but oh God. I mean, 9/11 had just happened, but this is his 9/11 game.
Well, he was a record-breaking quarterback in college. So he decided, I'm going to set a record in the NFL, and he goes out and does that.
I thought you had to do something good to be remembered. Not if you do it colorfully.
So he proceeds to throw 7 interceptions.
Against who, Chris?
Oh, I don't know. Who was it?
Cleveland!
Oh, my God. I didn't write that down. That is so wild.
Oh, God, yes.
That must feel so bad.
Oof. It's like returning to the scene of the crime. God, it's terrible.
Oh, my God. I didn't even... Yeah.
They have the condensed game on NFL.com on YouTube. It's kind of silly. But then you're like, oh, man, this is almost like, well, for lack of a better word, a couple of disabled scouts fighting in a parking lot.
But I feel like because he was so known for being such a smart player and reading defenses, when you see this game, you're just like, oh, okay, he's done.
I mean, they're not all his fault, but you're like...
No, they're not.
You're just like, Ty, what are you doing, buddy?
Yep.
What are you doing, Boxy?
What are you doing, Bogsy?
So he doesn't play 2002 at all.
No.
He's still in Detroit, but he's
he
backing up Joey Harrington and Mike McMahon. And then March 13th, 2003, the Lions hire Steve Mariucci as the head coach. So guess what? Still on the roster.
Yep.
Still getting paid. Like but Kenny Lofton's playing. Ty Detmer's just clipboarding it and being a good citizen.
But I feel like for Ty's credit, every single coach that was like an assistant coach and then got a position was like, I want that guy.
Oh, yeah.
So like it's like we're kind of like throwing some shade on his NFL career. Every single coach wanted him on their team.
I won't talk shit about Ty Detmer at all. As a college quarterback, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yes, absolutely.
If you're just a backup in the NFL, you've made it.
Yeah.
I don't care who the hell you are. We might joke, but that's legit. And to be around this long means you made a positive impression on all of your bosses.
Yep.
So kudos.
Yep.
Like, not throwing shade at all. Thank you for saying that. Spent 2004 and 2005 backing up Michael Vick and Matt Schaub there in Atlanta. This is Greg Knapp's offensive coordinator now. So
it's everybody.
Place knows him, which is awesome.
And I feel like coaches want to bring him in for young quarterbacks too. That's like the other thing I was saying. He's like player coach, where it's kind of like, no. He's going to be our backup quarterback, but he has so much knowledge that he's going to help these guys develop.
Yeah, I will teach you proper mechanics, ball placement, things you're really, and with that arm, it'll take you places. As far as his NFL stats, 111 games, 6,351 passing yards, 34 touchdowns, and 3 rushing touchdowns, which nothing to sneeze at all, considering
the era.
His first 4 years, he barely took any snaps.
He played 7 games, but he, like, to say that is, he played so, I don't even think he played a full game. You know what I mean?
Like, no, not at all. No, he didn't get any starts or anything.
No.
Like some of the guys.
I just mean accumulated in those 7 games. I bet he played like 2 quarters.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So he's been coaching a lot now, which makes complete and total sense.
Yep.
He was he coached in high school for about 6 years, and then in 2015, he's the offensive coordinator and QB coach at B.Y.U.
Yep.
Coached there for a few years, and now he's actually up in Queen Creek as the head coach of a football team there, up in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Did you read anything about the affinity fraud trial?
No.
So you know how we've talked about like athletes going broke?
Yeah.
Apparently he lost like a ton of money from this dude that he met through church and worked in his company.
Oh,
and he just
damn. Investments and like that
exactly,
kind of shit.
and died for fraud and stuff like. Ty had nothing to do with it, but this company was just like
he got screwed over.
Yeah, 100%. But it's nice to see him coaching. Like this, it's what he really should be. He was a coach when he was a player.
Yes. Well, I thought after the B.Y.U. he was going to take like a smaller college job, but I feel like he's probably better at a high school development kind of.
He's he's like Ned Flanders as a quarterback coach. Like he probably does the doodlies.
Well, I mean, he's not a lefty, so let's.
That's true. All right, yeah, that's very true.
Because I felt like that was an inaccurate. We don't want to make Ty mad at us.
No, we don't want to make Ty mad at us. No.
But yeah, one of the best college quarterbacks of all time.
And a Brett Favre backup.
Thank you, guys.